So welcome to today's panel session. And today we're going to be talking about how to smash Black Friday and Cyber Monday. And I guess at the kind of core of this is a discussion about online shopping and e-commerce and how to use some of the events that kind of come around in the calendar year to kind of help focus the mind. But we've got two fabulous guests today. We have Becca McCalla from who's the founder of the Little Adventure Shop, and Wiz Selvey, who's the CEO of Wiz & Co. So without kind of further ado, Becca, could you sort of introduce yourself and just tell us a bit about Little Adventure Shop?
Hi, yeah, thanks very much for inviting me. So my name is Rebecca. I founded Little Adventure Shop just over 10 years ago, and we are an online retail store that specialises in kids' outdoor clothing and equipment. So we sell well-known outdoor brands, but we just focus in on the kids' end of the spectrum. And yeah, so we're purely online, and we've been growing quite organically for quite a few years. And then over the last few years, we've really seen our growth expand, partly due to lockdown and also pushing on social and Google shopping, etc., etc. So yeah, so we are waiting with bated breath for Black Friday to land in a few days. So I mean, for us, Black Friday is it's some kind of a time you love to hate, because it's very busy, but also it's a time when we've got we're quite busy anyway, because we're quite a seasonal company. So as the winter comes in, we see our sales and our traffic rise on the site quite considerably. So we yeah, so Black Friday is very much for us about getting new customers in, and coming back, getting back our existing customers, whilst offering them some good deals, but also whilst maintaining our margins as much as possible. Because particularly this year, a lot of the stuff there's no point in us selling out in November because we can't get any more stock in for the rest of the winter. So there's no point in selling it at a discount, only to be short later in the season. So it really is a balancing act between driving some sales but maintaining margins as far as possible as well.
So I mean we're going to come back and kind of go into the detail of that, because I think it's a really interesting point around some of the challenges that Black Friday brings as well in terms of stock and things. But anyway, Wiz, could you introduce yourself and your background? I think you come at this from a sort of much more strategy-based way of doing things. So be brilliant to kind of hear what your background is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I spent 12 amazing years working at Selfridges in buying. So I've been buyer for many categories, from starting in fashion, accessories, lifestyle, and lastly was head of beauty buying. And I've also sat on the other side of the table and worked with brands. So I was director for Cowshed and Soho Home. And then as part of Wiz & Co, we work with global retailers, global brands, but also help independent brand founders scale as well. I suppose over the years at Selfridges, I always worked with a mix of businesses, from the large corporates to sourcing the hottest new indie brands. And there's more indie brands out there than ever. So I suppose I've traded some multi-million-pound businesses over the years, from being at Selfridges, from working with brands. I've done projects with Ocado and Next and kind of traded them through Black Fridays. And then also I have online education for brand founders as well. So helping them navigate how to market and scale profitably. So I think Black Friday I'm hugely passionate about, because it's a great opportunity for sales, but if you're not looking at your bottom line, you can actually hemorrhage cash. You can get stuck with no stock to sell when it comes to Christmas, where you could have kind of sold the best selling stuff. So yeah, it's a topic I'm quite passionate about sharing. I've kind of got a masterclass that we're going to follow up with on this if people really want to go into a bit more depth as well. But I'm going to give you kind of some of my top tips and do's and don'ts today.
Well, that's fine. So I mean, it sounds like you've got a very kind of broad set of experiences with a broad range of kind of retailers. I mean, Black Friday seems to be gaining importance in the calendar year. I think, is that kind of fair to say? I mean, I guess if you go back 10 years ago, it wasn't a kind of thing here, or is that just my misinterpretation?
No, it definitely has. I think as the world's got smaller through digital, we've seen what's been happening in America very clearly, and they've been doing it for a number of years, because it's always been around Thanksgiving, essentially, which kind of is a holiday, which we haven't really had in the UK. But yeah, we've kind of really followed that, and actually we're starting to see it a lot more with things like Chinese Singles Day, which is a big event over there that now come. I mean, that was last week, and that kind of it's all coming in. And I think also brands need to be thinking strategically about how many times they do offer promotional strategies, because it can be great to get some sales in, but actually you look at the demise of Debenhams and House of Fraser that discounted all the time. What's happened to them? You look at John Lewis and Profit Warnings, who kind of price matched. So it can be a very slippery slope, and it's very hard to get out of. So it's about having a strategy and sticking to it, and yeah, not doing it too often.
So, I mean, and Becca, I guess you were sort of alluding to the fact that you've got to be very careful because, you know, particularly at the moment where stock is a massive issue in terms of kind of goods coming into the country. But
yeah, I mean, I'd go back to what Wiz is saying as well about you don't want, well, we offer, our brand proposition is that we offer really good quality brands and advice and a one-stop, if you like, to get a good range. We don't sell sort of the very low end of the market. It's all mid to high end outdoor gear. So whilst it's good to offer some discounts and incentives to buy, we don't want to be giving that. We're not in it to just knock it out cheap. That's and high volume. It's all about the service we give and everything else. So it is a balancing act between keeping giving customers something to come into and so we for example this year we're using it to promote a few of the brands that are less well known in this country, so they could do with a boost, and it's a really nice way of maybe getting people just to try that brand for the first time. So we're using a brand called Raymer. It's a brand from Finland, and we're doing some quite good promotions on their sort of kids waterproof sets, which is quite a nice generic product, but maybe it's a brand that people haven't heard of, so it gives that brand a little boost, and maybe just that little incentive for people to say, oh, you know, I'll give it a go, even though I'm not that aware of them. So it's really useful in terms like that. But yeah, but the stuff that we can sell day in day out, or we will sell out of, that won't be featuring heavily in Black Friday.
So for you, it's Black Friday is a great opportunity to kind of showcase, because you know that, you know, the event is there in the diary. It means something to people. People might be out sort of searching for kind of Black Friday deals, so you're kind of connecting them with that. But
yeah, exactly. It's getting something for us, because some of the product we sell is quite niche, so that's not really relevant, because it's not going to be, when you're starting to advertise it on social media, obviously you want something that a lot of people can relate to. For us anyway, not too niche. So yeah, so it's, I mean, I wouldn't say we've got it right every year, so we've tried different approaches. Some have been more sort of a broad brush approach, which looks great at the time, and then, you know, you sit back a couple of weeks later and you're like, oh, well, the turnover was great, but actually it cost us a hell of a lot as well. So yeah, it's
so just, I mean, would you mind sort of giving some examples of that? Is that sort of more, you know, I don't know, turning the website sort of black or whatever, just to kind of sort of make the point, or
yeah, I mean, there's some of that going on. I think it really depends. I mean, I think because we're a website that sells lots of other brands, so we have obviously recommended retail prices that everyone knows about. If we had our own brand, it would be quite different, and we could because we would set the price accordingly. So I think I can certainly imagine that businesses that have their own unique brand, their unique product, their push on Black Friday would probably be quite more significant, or across the range than a company like ours that sells a variety of known brands.
So Wiz, I mean that, taking that point, I mean, in terms of some of the brands and retailers you've worked for, how have they kind of built excitement around Black Friday? How have they kind of approached things? Have they done what Becca's done in terms of taking specific ranges? I mean, I guess I look at someone like Amazon and their Black Friday, it seems very broad brush in terms of things, but I'm sure there's some science to it. But sort of what's your experience been with some of the companies you've worked with?
Yeah, I mean, it's starting to vary as well. I think it used to just be a blanket discount that you had, just kind of across the site. And kind of that was that, try and make it quite easy. But I suppose it has started to become a bit more sophisticated, or where people have actually started looking and analysing their profits, or what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing. And I suppose the big retailers, again, they've generally kept it quite simple, or by product category. They sometimes have exclusions, which can be quite challenging because sometimes that disappoints the customer. Or they can do kind of certain sections or additional discounts on certain areas. I think that makes it slightly easier with digital. I think it's quite hard in an in-store experience because someone just moves a sticker or puts that over there. And I think with kind of any sale that you see happening in TK Maxx, where they've kind of got the stickiest stickers ever, so people can't reprice them now. So yeah, I think there is more sophistication coming, and I think tiering, and people are coming wiser to that, because actually, why discount something if you can sell it at full price? So there is a real variety of it. So I think it's working out what's right for your business, and then what's key is working out, I suppose, to Rebecca's point as well, is who else sells potentially the brands you stock, or if you are a brand, what retail partnerships do you have and what are they offering? Because you want to make sure that there's some kind of alignment there as well, and you don't want to lose out. Or are you okay with a retailer doing more of it if you've already sold them the stock, because actually then that's their profit margin? So there's kind of lots of considerations, and again, that's really thinking about what's your strategy and what do you learn every year, and how do you adapt that?
I mean, I think that's it's interesting thinking about beyond kind of you as a retailer and thinking about what the competition are up to, might be selling similar lines. I mean, I guess part of preparing for Black Friday is perhaps doing some research about what other companies are up to, and just trying to sort of decipher what they're going to do. And because I guess part of Black Friday is making sure that what you do sort of stands out in the crowd as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, it's about having a bit of a plan A and a plan B. So I don't want to overcomplicate things, but actually, if you're kind of a big retailer or a big business, it's like, okay, this is what we're going to go in with. Actually, I was kind of doing a project with a retailer kind of one year, and actually it was like, right, we're going to have to completely flip. Like the first day went live, had to completely flip and pull back what was happening, because they were going to hemorrhage money, the amount they would have to spend on digital marketing to get that cut through. So actually, sometimes you're like, well, actually, you can't anticipate what the other retailer is going to be spending to be able to kind of get that traffic as well, which actually starts to kind of make things even more complicated. So sometimes it is about a plan A and a plan B.
I mean, that's such a good point as well. I mean, if things look like they're going too well or not very well, you can always kind of change things. I guess that's the beauty of digital. So
yeah, I mean, it's literally a 5-second job, and you can, if you manage to price something incorrectly or a range or something and it's not working, or it's, you can just change it instantly. And yeah, online, that's
so I mean, and that's so I mean, I guess with Black Friday, a lot of companies will be scrutinizing the analytics of what they're selling. And so you sort of sat looking at kind of a dashboard of products being sold, Becca, and
yeah, it's yes, we will be. And it's interesting because the other side of Black Friday as well is I'm not sure what the name is for it, but it's the lull you get before Black Friday starts. So you'll see traffic go up, but not as much conversion, because people are sort of looking around thinking, oh, well, I'll keep an eye on that, and I might get it if there's a discount. So not only have you got
before the storm,
exactly, yeah. so you've got always sort of tearing your hair out, thinking, oh my goodness, what's happening? It's all gone quiet in the middle of November, and then it will start to pick up. And again, that also depends on your timing and when you launch as well, because you don't want to necessarily run it for too long, but at the same time, the longer you wait, the more less, perhaps potentially less opportunity you've got to sell because maybe other competitors have gone earlier or whatever. But also what, I mean, slightly off topic, but something we've learned is that, I mean, when it first started, it was really just the weekend, and we, you know, launch on the Thursday night and wrap up on the Tuesday morning. But the other side of that was it was so busy during those 4 days, is that actually for a small business to keep up with the shipping and everything else, it was absolutely bonkers. And so just to relieve the pressure on the way we run, you spread it over a longer period, which makes it quite a lot easier. Although we do see, even though we run it for, you know, longer than the weekend, it still seems to be focused on that weekend.
So I mean, again, that's fascinating. So we've gone from Black Friday to Black Week.
Like 10 days.
I mean, again, Wiz, is that that's something that you've sort of seen before, just the practicalities of actually having to ship all the stuff that you kind of are selling on the event? It just means that actually extending it out kind of makes sense as well.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Black Friday stuff went live last week. I started to see things. So yeah, I think to be able to guarantee delivery, I think particularly if you're a smaller brand, your capacity, if you're picking and packing that yourself, I mean, particularly, or potentially working with a warehouse, are they going to put a surcharge on over that weekend? There's lots of different variables that might be happening behind the scenes. And I think, yeah, just kind of the saving the postman. But yeah, there's a lot of questions around sustainability or around the Black Friday as well. So I think a lot of brands also aren't doing it and kind of having a stance on that and saying, look, we don't believe in this kind of big push against consumerism, because kind of it's another trend that we're seeing is people are being more mindful about what they're spending, who they're spending it with, how much they're consuming as well. So actually, if you're saying that you're a sustainable brand, doing Black Friday kind of jars with what your values are.
No, I mean, that is, again, it's a very good point. It's sort of thinking about all of these things. I mean, Becca, we had a quick chat, you know, earlier on, and I think, you know, it's sort of a point you were making that sort of just being careful about like how you're perceived from a kind of Black Friday point of view is sort of working.
Yeah. I mean, we don't want to come with, you know, we're all about selling quality product that you use, and then, you know, your child outgrows it, it doesn't wear out, you pass it on. So we're not about push, buy more of the same, buy more of the same. But it is, I think the angle I like to take is, well, maybe I'm opening people's eyes. Maybe they're going to try a product that they wouldn't have come across before, and it's at that price that they'll think, okay, we'll just give it a go. And actually, hopefully, then they, you know, they use it and they realize, oh, actually, just getting these waterproofs or whatever does make a difference. And then they're more inclined to come back and buy more.
I mean, again, it sort of feels like actually it's an event where people's minds are open to shopping, but you know, it's perhaps a great opportunity to get sort of sustainability messages across. So, you know, just because it's got this moniker around it, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily a bad thing. You know, it's just perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. You don't want to be sort of condoning the kind of fighting in the aisles of Asda, you know, for the latest TV or whatever it is that hits the newspaper headlines every Black Friday weekend. But at the same time, yeah, it seems to be a point in the year when people, you know, are prepared to spend money as well. So it's we would take part, but not. But as Wiz was saying, you got to look at it and have a strategy and decide which angle you're going to take.
So, I mean, again, I'm kind of keen to come back to this point of, you know, profitability and, you know, the metrics and the numbers. It sort of feels to me like actually, you know, there's a lot of thinking that needs to go into your plan. So, I mean, Wiz, I don't know, do you advise people to kind of have a financial plan for Black Friday, as well as, you know, because I mean, just as we're talking, I guess people will spend money on marketing. You know, they'll have, I mean, you've already mentioned it, there may be surcharges in terms of warehousing, surcharges in terms of delivery. I mean, it sort of suddenly feels like, you know, if you're not careful, things could spiral out of control. So, you know, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like actually having a financial plan could be one of the most important things in terms of, you know, profit loss account around the event.
Yeah, and I mean, I work with a broad range of clients and sizes of businesses, from like multi-million pounds to kind of brand founders that are scaling. And it's interesting how similar sometimes some of the challenges or the problems or the mistakes are, because you can get these big corporate companies and they're so big that actually the digital marketing team has got a digital marketing budget and the buying team is really focused on the sales, and actually they're not, and what the stock levels are, and actually they're not really communicating about that full P&L. So that can be a real challenge, because the digital marketing team is just going to spend on that, but maybe they don't know how much stock there is. And honestly, that seriously happens if no one's looking at it kind of a holistic full view. And it's the
rogue
same
marketing teams, which
and
it's getting carried away.
They've just got a pot of budget, and they don't necessarily have been educated to think about the whole, I suppose, P&L of it. And actually, it's the same, I suppose, with the founder. They're just thinking sales, great. But actually, are they looking at that whole P&L as well, and potentially how that affects kind of the curve for the rest of the year, particularly if they're running more promotions over the year as well. So, yeah, and I see a lot of founders that are focused on sales and they're not focused on the profit of their business, which again is so important to scaling as well. And kind of trying to do everything themselves rather than necessarily outsourcing. And yeah, it's definitely a challenge I've seen with lots of different sizes of business.
I mean, again, Becca, you're actually selling sort of other branded products. None of them are Little Adventure Shop branded.
Yeah.
I guess you've got to be very mindful of the margins you're making as well the whole time, but particularly around something like an exciting event like Black Friday.
Yeah, yes, you are. I mean, the stats you can obviously pull off of your social ads and Google ads and Google shopping ads, you could do an entire degree in it, no problem. But the great thing about it is like, if you're running a Facebook ad, you can look at the ROAS, and it's you're going to have your limit that you're happy with. So ROAS, return on ad spend. And if it's not working, you turn it off. You can't. That's the joy of it. You can react and just stop. So we'll be looking at that. And sometimes you think you've got something cracking and it doesn't work. Another time, something you're not sure about absolutely flies. It's really, really difficult to predict. So I think the thing is just to keep an eye on it and not just assume it's all going to run out and be fine in the end. Be more proactive and just keep a close eye on.
So it's sort of doing the analysis in the moment rather than waiting to the month end and then going, well, what happened there? And
yeah, I mean, you can see something that's bombing quite quickly and react to that. But the other thing you can't see, and what as an online retailer you're hoping, is that you're bringing in new customers that will become repeat customers in the future. And obviously you can't. So you spend to get them in the first case, and then hopefully that they'll come back again in the future. And, you're not having to pay such a high price, if you like, to get them to visit your shop for the first time that you did the first time. So
I mean, I guess that's that whole dynamic of kind of using like events like Black Friday for acquisition compared to, maybe selling to existing customers. I mean, do you sort of think about that at all around the event, or are you fairly sort of agnostic in terms of who is sort of coming and buying this stuff? Basically, sorry, that's a very clumsy way of asking.
We're not targeting one or we're targeting all of them. So we'll obviously use email marketing that will target our existing customers, obviously, and then social, and we'll retarget customers as well that have visited previously. So there's a lot going on from a lot of areas to try and pull it together. I think coming back to what we were saying earlier about the level, the customers we're not desperately keen to attract, for want of a better word, is ones that are looking for a massive discount, and that's all they're looking for, and then that's it, they won't come back again. That's probably not fair to say we're not looking for them, but it's they, that's the bottom of the funnel, if you like. We'd prefer to get people that are interested. So that's why we'll offer, is rather than offer massive discounts across the whole store, it will be a focused, targeted event that hopefully attracts the right sort of customer that are interested in our brand, and then we'll come back in the future.
So I mean, Wes, again, in terms of the experience you've had I mean, how are the retailers you work with, have they been using it? Is it sort of acquisition? I mean, like retargeting? I mean, those again, some sort of interesting words from Becca around, you know, kind of marketing strategies. I mean, what have you kind of seen, and what would your advice be to, I guess, smaller retailers who are kind of looking to use Black Friday?
Yeah, I think it's all about nurturing your VIP customers and how you can start to segment that, which can seem like a kind of a big mountain to do, to try to start segmenting things if you're a smaller business. But I think it's super important to know who your best customers are and how you can reward them, particularly on something like Black Friday, and then particularly your email subscribers as well. So there's one thing having something that's blanket on the website and on social media, but you should be nurturing the people that have signed up to your email list, that want to hear from you, that have given over their valuable data, that have purchased from you before. So how can you reward them, either with a different discount, with an early discount, with kind of something that's slightly more special, make them feel special as well, because that loyalty is so important. Because if they purchase from you before and they purchase on Black Friday and you make them feel special, then they've got more chance for them coming back and purchasing full price as well. So I think it's a real opportunity to start to nurture that email subscriber list, and then create that higher tier as well, the people that spend a lot with you, the people that are really engaged with you, that kind of are always kind of commenting and interacting with you on social, and whether you can potentially kind of create events for them. And I think it's a real opportunity to see who those diehard fans are that keep coming back, because ultimately that loyalty is a really much more organic way to build your audience, particularly when you're a smaller brand. I see a lot of people that kind of jump onto digital advertising or kind of jump into using a PR agency when they're quite small, and actually there's lots of things they can be doing around building loyalty and experience with some key customers that will kind of really start to build much more value. Actually it's so much easier to get a customer to purchase a second or a third time, or them to tell their friends if they have an amazing experience, rather than spending money on advertising or PR, which is kind of can be a bit of a black hole if you haven't got that established business in place first. So yeah, really think about how you nurture them during the process, and also encouraging people to sign up to the email list before Black Friday. So how are you seeding it, and kind of letting people know that actually the email subscriber list are going to get something first. I mean, there's also just a sea of information and advertising. It's quite hard to get seen. It's like everyone's saving up all their budget and throwing things at it at this time of year. So yeah, I mean, we've seen algorithms going crazy on digital anyway. We've seen iOS updates making it really hard for Facebook advertising and social media blackouts, and so digital is becoming harder than ever. So actually that loyalty is a massive opportunity, whatever size business you are, even if you only have a couple of sales, is focusing on that repeat purchase, focus on loyalty, and focus on brand advocates.
I mean, I really love that. I mean, the idea of actually using Black Friday as a kind of customer event, a VIP customer event, I think is a really, really nice one. I mean, you sort of sparked something else in my head, which is around, I guess, consumer behavior as well. So in terms of the work that you've done, did you do any analysis around, you know, what's going through people's head around these events? I mean, are people purely driven by, you know, I want to get an item, or are they sort of broader in kind of the, you know, how are people shopping effectively for Black
Yeah,
Friday?
I mean, it's a really interesting question. Do you do any analysis? Because I don't actually do any, but that was my job for kind of 15 years, was to predict what customers wanted. So it's all done through my intuition and my gut and my feeling, and kind of having traded businesses. I'm doing a trend event in January, and I was chatting to somebody they were saying, oh, what analysis do you use? And I'm like, I don't, it's just years of learning it. But yeah, consumerism has changed. People are shopping in different ways. And I think the key thing that's happening at the moment is people's attention span is kind of getting so short. We all know it. We all kind of feel like, oh my God, my mind's going crazy because I've got so much information, and we're flicking through things. And TikTok has made these reels of everything's getting really, really short. And we've got more and more adverts at us every day, and we're choosing to look at it on social media as well. So actually that attention span is becoming shorter, but actually what we are seeing is where people sign up for an event like live commerce or kind of interactive masterclasses, people are willing to sign up and spend more time and actually have an experience and be involved and feel part of something. And again, I really see that's where that value is, and that loyalty comes through as well, because as I said, that digital's getting harder to get that cut through, then this is an avenue that actually, if you increase, people want to spend their time with you, wow, that's a real moment. So how can you try and capture that? I've gone off on a tangent there, but
no. I think it's really interesting. It's really interesting, that whole notion of building kind of community and building, you know, I guess a lot of brand loyalty is part of that. And I get, you know, you could say that, you know, one of the downsides of Black Friday is you can destroy that brand loyalty by being clumsy in terms of the approach you take. So just selling things cheap and sort of flooding sort of people into your sites, and you know, can sort of detract from that. So again, it's sort of like, I mean, I really like the notion of using it as a opportunity to have an event or something like that to kind of really help customers. I mean, Becca, I don't know what you feel about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think about that side of things, definitely. Going back to what Wiz was saying about it's the barriers to entry to selling online now are really low. So it's quite easy to start posting something online and selling it, but you've got to add more than just selling a product. And that, I think over the last few years, that's become more and more prevalent. And, you know, so certainly from Little Adventure Shop standpoint, we'd like to try and bring real life into it. We quite often find that from a social media advertising side, that the less corporate our adverts, the better we do. So just bring real life and real honest advice, and really knowing the products we sell, and just being able to pass that on. And so we have YouTube videos that are hosted on the website now that are really, really popular, just giving a parent's eye view, you know, not a big corporate, but just like, this is the reality, this is how we do, this is how this product works, this is how you wash it, this is how you do this is how you do that, you know, real basic stuff. But that's really working. I think people have built it, customers kind of trust us to sell a good quality product now. So that's something that we're working on more and more, and getting some great feedback. And I think that for us helps build the community coming around that side of things as well.
I mean, you could almost boil that down to authenticity as well. So understanding what you stand for, and kind of making sure that that's a kind of central part. So I mean, I've known you for many years, and I've watched the Little Adventure Shop kind of grow. But I think one of the things I love is how you do use children wearing your clothes to kind of be the ambassadors for the shop itself. And it's an obvious thing to do, but I mean, you've got some sort of fantastic, it just sort of feels like a bit of a club, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think that's what we're trying to build, that side of things. I mean, you know, I've walked the walk in terms of a parent and going through it all and being very outdoorsy myself, if you like. So it's just passing on that knowledge, really, and it's great to see people, you know, suddenly waking up and thinking, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that was even a possibility. And like, as daft, a simple thing like a pair of waterproof dungarees, that it just gives their kids more opportunity to get outside, and then they start sharing that back with us, and then sharing it with their friends, and that's when it really starts to work. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, that point of authenticity, I guess, it's something you'd understand, Wiz, and you know, I guess that goes back to companies understanding what they stand for and kind of how they approach things. And I sort of feel that has to be something that then guides the decisions you make around events like Black Friday.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the aim, where you see a really big category disruptor, retail disruptor, something that's really making waves and changes. And it's actually that kind of that trust that's been built with customers. It is that authenticity, and quite often it's that non-tangible stuff, which people tend to veer away from because they're scared of it, or they can't calculate an ROI on it, which is that yes, I mean, you can do digital advertising and you can there's so much digital you can track, but actually customers need to see you more than once before they make a purchase decision. And that's always been the case. It's been the marketing rule of 7. It's up to 20 or 30 times now meant to be, because there's so much content out there, which is petrifying. So yes, we can get an ROI on all this digital stuff, but is that really the first time they've seen you and then they converted you? That's just that little push that gets them over. So yeah, I don't think people like thinking that it's non-tangible, because it feels a little bit out of control. But actually, that is what suddenly makes kind of a brand or a business explode. It's all that groundwork, and I suppose it goes back to being an overnight success. There's no such thing. It's all of that hard work and graft that's been done in the background.
I mean, I think again, it's a brilliant point. That often people just will come back and they don't make a decision there and then. They sort of will, I mean, I've got experience with large banks selling mortgages, and that to buy a mortgage, people will visit a page 10, 15 times, to be honest with you. So I think it's very separate, but the point is it's not something that you necessarily sort of have to be pushing people to press the buy button on the first kind of visit. So I think that's a really interesting point. I mean, I was just does anybody have any questions for Becca or Wiz? For me, it's just fascinating. I sort of feel like I've kind of had a personal masterclass in terms of but if there's anybody who's got questions, then do pop them into the chat. But yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. So Wiz, you mentioned things like Singles Day, and I guess we've got Christmas coming up, and then we've got all the Christmas sales. Have you, as you sort of talk to companies and they're sort of looking at their calendar of events, are you sort of advising them to kind of focus on certain events, or what's the sort of thinking around that sort of that annual calendar?
I think it depends on the product category. I think as well, I think Singles Day is kind of very, I suppose, luxury, accessories or beauty, because it's kind of inspired by I suppose the Chinese shopping. And I think it's quite a cool concept, really. It's kind of basically, and if you don't know what it is, it's like anti-Valentine's Day. So actually it's a bit like, fingers up to Valentine's Day, I'm single, I'm going to buy something for myself. I mean, why the hell not? I think it's much better, clever marketing activity than it is buying a bunch of flowers or a card for someone just because you feel like you ought to. But yeah, I think again, it's deciding which ones are right for you, which kind of what other people are doing essentially in the category that you're in, and don't do too many. Really, don't do too many. Be selective. And there are other ways of offering promotions, but a bit more tactical as well. That doesn't have to be these flat discounts, that they could be tiered, or they could be kind of exclusive offers or just certain ranges. And yeah, I think it's having a brainstorm about how you can do things that are slightly different, and maybe potentially not plastering it all over your website and social media all the time, because it devalues a brand. Right. Going back to that trust and authenticity, it's how do you want to be known? I think John Lewis is an interesting one, because I mentioned them earlier. Like the Debenhams and House of Fraser, always was a discount, Blue Cross sale, XYZ. We know where they've ended up. But John Lewis, never knownly undersold, a very aspirational tagline, but actually just meant they discounted twice as much because they matched Debenhams and they matched House of Fraser. So yeah, it was a very chic way of putting it. Actually, it was double the profit loss. So it's you can then think of a more aspirational way of putting it, or like we're rewarding our best customers XYZ, but actually it's caused a problem now, so it's not sustainable.
That's interesting. So I mean, beyond Black Friday, Becca, do you sort of think about any other of the sort of calendar events out there? And
well, I don't think Singles Day is a really good match for us, to be honest. We'll do Christmas, and then we'll have a sort of end of season sale in the winter and the summer. But there's no other. We might we'll do maybe a promotion on fleece clothing for a week or something like that at a point in the year that it's appropriate. To be honest, a massive thing for us is the weather. So if we get, so I'm just looking at the forecast, next Black Friday, potentially it's going to be really, really cold as well. So that for us will be,
hooray!
Yeah, yeah, no, it'll be, I mean, the entire outdoor industry is the same. It's really is the weather is a massive driver for demand. So yeah, so that will influence us quite a bit in seeing what the forecast, and sort of just a mild, I would call it a Tupperware sky, just a grey day where there was nothing really happening weather-wise isn't great for sales. So then we might, that might be the time to push a 20% off X or Y or something like that. So yeah, nothing set in stone. It's kind of about adapting to see what's selling and what other conditions are, like the weather and supply really as well.
Well, thank you, because I guess what I've heard is you really need to be prepared. You really need to think this stuff through. You need to think about the sort of profit and loss. You need to think about which kind of customers you're kind of targeting. I mean, and then, this point of don't just wait until after the event to sort of see what's happened, sort of be constantly checking on things. And, the point you made, Wiz, around have a plan A and a plan B. So if things are working badly or too well, that you can kind of change things midstream. So, yeah, I mean, it really does sound like you've kind of got to go into this with your eyes wide open. And I guess one thing we haven't talked about is things like kind of digital marketing and investing in digital marketing. So Wiz, what's your experience been with brands? Do they tend to sort of spend, going back to the digital marketing teams, do they get excited and get their checkbooks out around these events? Or is it, yeah, I mean, you'd say yes, probably, looking at the amount of advertising out there. Or how do marketing teams kind of approach this generally?
Oh, it completely depends on the business. I've seen some kind of a real variety, from kind of having a real aligned vision together to literally different teams having no idea and just having a pot of money and they're going to spend that and whatever happens. So yeah, it can be really strategic, or it can just not be at all. I think it depends on the size of and the sophistication of the digital team, but also actually not necessarily the sophistication of the business, but actually, how the teams integrate, I think is the crucial thing. Sometimes business
I guess Becca, if you're a smaller business, just making sure you're on top of that, thinking about your kind of email outreach program beforehand, and
yeah, I mean, everything's set up, and I work with a marketing agency, and it's all prepped. All the discounts are all ready to go, and so it's all the planning's done. It's just a question of sort of when to hit the button, really. And again, it's like I said, it's just waiting for that inevitable lull before Black Friday kicks in, and just kind of timing it when to go. So yeah, it's, I mean, in terms of marketing spend, it's because we're a smallish business. We can say, well, we think we're going to spend this, but then again, if things are going really well, then we'll spend more. If right. It's not, we'll pull it back a bit. But
again, it's been on top of the information and the data. So it's sort of like it sort of feels like success comes with control, basically.
It's the devil's in the detail, definitely. Yeah. It's not just about turnover.
Fantastic. Well, listen, there's, for me, that's been brilliant. I don't know if either of you've got sort of any last things that you don't feel we've kind of covered, which you wanted to mention. Otherwise, I'm really grateful for you turning up. I don't think we have got any questions at the moment. So, BJ, have we got any questions at all, or anything that you want to ask? If he's there, no. But listen, thank you so much for that session. It's been really, really fascinating. I really enjoyed it. So thank you for joining.
Sure.
Thank you.
Fabulous.